Could silence be the thing that makes your body sick? Katie Sutton's blocked throat, born of a childhood with no voice, unraveled into illness, including chronic migraines and Graves' disease. Then, after years of distance from her father, he died by suicide, which she discovered on the far side of that fracture flips everything we think we know about healing. Now, before we dive in, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, Katie. Thank you so much for being here.
Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, absolutely. I've been looking so forward to this conversation. So just curious to see what direction it's going to go in. So can you go a little deeper into the traumas that you experienced and how your personal journey, your healing journey, got you where you are today and into the work that you do now?
Sure, absolutely. In this lifetime, in many lifetimes, my throat chakra has been a focus as I keep uncovering more layers, which we can talk about later.
Mhm.
But for now, in this incarnation, only child, two parents who were absolutely doing the best that they could, but were lacking their own voice in their childhood and carrying around a lot of emotional baggage, and a very independent child in this lifetime. That's kind of, I guess, how I would describe myself. Always pretty connected into the other realms, even though it was not at the forefront of my awareness that there was anything unusual going on when I was a little girl. I really wanted to move into this place of working in technology and being a CEO and going down this like very traditional path. And went into this corporate environment thinking that that was my path, and realized very quickly as I got into that environment that I had a whole host of things going on behind the scenes in my empathy and my psychic abilities that allowed me to kind of be the perfect sponge for everybody's stress in that environment. And as I began to unpack that to try to heal the things that were going on with my body, which was a thyroid disorder, Graves' disease, chronic migraines, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, pretty much every chronic you can put in there, it felt like. What I quickly uncovered as I started studying to support myself is that I've always been an empath, and that in that sponginess of taking on the stress of others, I was just doing what I had done as a child in taking on the feelings and the emotions of those around me in order to try to create safety for myself. And in a corporate, mm-hmm, yep. And in a corporate environment, when you're trying to just survive in that sensitive nature, but you don't really know that that's what's happening, it looks like a lot of physical things coming on into the body. And in that understanding, as it started to come forward, then I began the journey of going back and just even trying to connect to my inner child. I didn't realize that I was disconnected from her. I didn't realize that she had so much pain and so many unspoken things. I thought I had a pretty joyful childhood, and I did. I had lots of friends. I, was very successful in school. On paper, everything looked really beautiful. But what I have realized is that the things that were passed down from my mom and dad to me and what happened to them in their childhood became a continuation of how I operated. And I went right into work mode and right into production mode. And I turned off my connection to that little girl, and especially to my inner feminine. And so it's been a journey of, I think I started really reconnecting with that probably around 2006 and 2007. So it's been quite a long journey of uncovering all of the places where I had abandoned myself and healing that. And it took me out of the corporate space eventually in 2017 to start my own company in 2018. And I've been doing healing work with thousands of people each year ever since. And I try to focus on helping them to find the empowered story inside of them and reconnecting to the little child within, reconnecting to the parts of themselves that they've abandoned for whatever reason that's occurred in their life, so that they can uncover the reasons why they are unwell or unhappy. And as you know, I'm sure it's a winding journey of many different layers of the onion that we uncover. And there's always more to learn. These days, it looks a lot like embodiment work for me and trying to be in the presence of joy, even when there are hard things happening around us and in our experience. Specifically for me in the last year or so. So my father died in the December 1st of 2024. So we're moving towards the 1 year anniversary of his passing, and he died by suicide. And so that has changed the trajectory of my life to a degree. It has expanded my work, it has expanded my personal process, and my connection in my work with my partner in the divine masculine, and what the impact is on my feminine. So it continues to evolve as, we continue to have things happen in our lives, we continue to evolve. And so that's been the latest stage of my healing journey. And so that's like the Cliff Notes version of what's happened in my life.
Wow. I have heard part of this story before, and every time you tell it, it's like our lives, for the most part, have gone like this. Like everything that you said fits, excuse me, right in with most of what I've gone through. But I had a couple of questions to ask you based on what you've said that I think I'd like for you to expand on a little bit more. Can you talk a little bit more about the disconnection with the inner feminine? Because these are things I'd like to hear it from somebody else, because I experienced and did work with my inner little girl as well. And I have worked with clients introducing them to their inner child. And I've always found that very profound, the healing, the integration, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, maybe you could share a little bit about that, but I really want you to get into this whole disconnect with the inner feminine thing, because I think that's huge, profound, especially for women in general, but for anyone who is interested in like the balance between the masculine and the feminine piece of it. So yeah, can you touch on the little child and the feminine? I don't know how that will go together, but it could.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime we're trying to reconnect to a lost part or a part that we've become disconnected from or abandoned in some way, the process kind of looks the same. It begins with an understanding that there's been a rupture, right? A separation. And then a taking of accountability on our part that we have to make a decision that that's not going to be the case anymore. And that changes how we show up in our life and the boundaries that we set. And in that accountability, we also have this energy of validation that is so important, of witnessing that there's a part of us that has pain that it's carried or disconnection that it's carried. And being willing to see that even though our life might look really beautiful on paper, that if there's something going on with our body or something going on within our being and a level of unhappiness, that there is some sort of disconnection or some compartmentalization that's happening. And so for me, any part I work with, whether it's my feminine, my masculine, my inner child aspect, a younger adult version of me, it doesn't really matter. That process is the same. So I think that's how they link together, right? The healing process is the same.
Okay, that makes sense.
And from a divine feminine perspective, to be in the environment that I was in, I made choices. I really try to be careful how I word that, because I think a lot of what's going on in our collective is this victim villain story between the masculine and the feminine. And I could argue that everything that's going on in our collective consciousness, where the feminine has been repressed and the masculine has struggled to find its footing in a healthy way, is a product of the duality that exists on this planet. And that this is part of what we agreed to as human beings when we came to be a part of this beautiful experiment we call Earth. And so for me, at the beginning, it was just addressing the fact that I was angry, I was sad, I was frustrated that being in a female body meant that things were harder for me in the corporate workplace. It meant that I was taken less seriously. It meant that I had to work twice as hard, whatever those things were. I had to first be with that knowing that there was an imbalance and process the emotions that I was repressing in order to be in that environment. And that was kind of stage one. And that's what I see with any person that I work with. And there's maybe this feeling of separation with their feminine, that there we have to address the emotions that are not being felt, because our feminine energy is our emotional and energetic self. Our masculine energy is our mental and physical body. And so when we're addressing our feminine energy, we're really working with emotions and our subtle energy flow. And
Right.
so if we're bottling up emotions or we're ignoring our energy system, then we're downgrading and denying the feminine to a degree,
Mhm.
right? So we
Well, let
first,
me stop you there because it's almost like we may be doing that to a degree, but that has been going on indefinitely in the world of downgrading the feminine. I'd like, yeah. So I want you to kind of get into what we'll ask that in a minute. Go ahead.
yeah, well, and I think it's interrelated. It's definitely interrelated
Yeah.
because the first step is understanding that this is a product of the environment that we're in and the
Mhm.
conditioning that we've been given.
Mhm.
And we're angry about that. And we might have a lot of blaming that we're doing in that process of, this person did this to me. I certainly had that in my corporate career, right? I even had women that were creating part of the issue for me at the time. It felt like,
Yeah.
where I didn't have a voice because they were trying to compete with me.
Right.
But as we move through that process, or as I've moved through that process, and I hope other people move through this process, what I've witnessed is at some point it goes from this externalization of blame to this realization of, I'm a product of the environment that I'm in. Okay, now what do I do about it?
Yes. Yep.
That's kind of the stage of the journey that I'm in, especially after my dad's passing. It really woke me up to the understanding that everybody here is suffering from this, right? Men, women, there's so much internalized shame, there's so much internalized judgment. And we have to feel the feelings of being victimized and allow that part of us to have a voice, allow those hurt parts to speak, and then also figure out, what do I do about it? How
Mhm.
do I no longer expand the shame by continuing to abandon that part of myself, right? So, our feminine energy, for example, how do I walk through my day going through hard things, holding space for clients, doing the work that I do in the world, and continue to be vulnerable, that I'm a human too and I have emotions? That's me not abandoning that feminine part of me, that when I was a child, there wasn't any space for those emotions because nobody in my family had that toolkit of understanding how to process their emotions, right? And so I've spent a lot of years working through the anger and the frustration and the blame and the internal shame and guilt. And now, what I'm really trying to work on in this stage of my healing journey is, okay, can I be neutral to all of those stories? And how do I just witness this so that it can shift, so that I can step into my new state of being where there's more balance and more harmony inside of me? And I'm not in battle with those around me or with myself. But that took me a lot of years to get to, right? That place of forgiveness and neutrality comes after we process the emotional backlog that we've been holding on to.
Yeah.
And so, if we're working on that with the feminine, we have to look at all of the factors that are creating this imbalance in our lives. I was in a corporate environment that didn't allow space for emotions, just like my childhood, right? And yet I chose that environment because it felt comfortable to me to a degree. It felt like it was the right path for me. And so in this process, I had to look and say, I made that choice and I doubled down on the conditioning that was given to me and I kept choosing it.
Mhm.
How do I make a different decision? And it looked like me being willing to leave and being willing to go in a different direction and do something that made sense to me and lit
Mhm.
up my heart, and me following my own path and trusting my own unique journey.
This is crazy. And thank you for sharing it that way because, like, you're hitting on so many experiences that I've had. So I'm saying it in this way because I'm probably not the only one. I'm pretty sure you're going to hit on some of this with other people too when they hear this. But what's interesting to me, there's a couple of things that came together when you were talking about that. Uh, the main thing is, like, it's not like you said, it's not just women who go through this because we all have or are looking for a balance of the masculine and the feminine. And so it's men. And for those of you who's, have a different gender identity, whatever that looks like for you, we still all have a masculine feminine balance, or we're meant to, right? There's a connection here that like started poking at me when you were saying that, because something to do with the feminine, something to do with having no voice, and something to do with what's going on right now in the world is like all coming together in my face, because it's interesting that you brought this up. I have a friend of mine who does some healing work. She's a medical intuitive. And I was just kind of trying to get some ideas and, what was happening with my stuff going on. And we were just talking, and she started getting into some things, and she's like, and I've worked so hard on this, and this is what's so challenging for me. She's like, you are so far into your masculine that your feminine is suffering. And I was like, are you kidding me? I have been working, because my version of your story is that I was in the army for 8 years. Yeah. I had always had the shame around my dad never being proud of me. So I joined the army, which he had done. He was in for 20 years. So he would be proud of me. So I walked away from my feminine when I did, well, probably way before that. But when I did that, I really walked away from it. And I became kind of corporate-like, but military, a combination. And when you were talking about that, I was like, ooh, this is hitting something, because there's something you were also saying, even with the women at your work, you were having issues with. It's like there's something within the energy of the feminine, especially now as it's coming to the surface, because I think a lot of people are really feeling this. A lot of women are feeling this. I mean, with all of the, crushing down and not giving us a voice and all that stuff. So I would like, if you could do some kind of a like reading or
I normally call it like a healing activation, or a reading and an activation of sorts.
Okay.
Bringing through maybe a channeled message and some.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because so kind of a little bit on me, but link it up with the collective, because I think that we all need this, especially surrounding the feminine, because we see what's happening. It's like some people believe that the feminine needs to just be kept in this silent mode, and that's fine, but that's not helping anything. And it's just needs to come out. Sure. It's here, it's on the surface. So yes, that would be wonderful if you could do that.
Yeah. And what's kind of coming forward, a couple of things before I get into that. I do a monthly energy update and a healing circle each month. And in August, we worked on the frequency of the collapsed feminine. And the way that was described to me by my team in session and in that healing circle is that it's basically when the voice and the emotions and the energy of the feminine is either completely repressed and she falls in on herself and she has no power, or the opposite, which is also a collapsed energy, where she goes into the wounded masculine and ignores the emotions, ignores the energy of what's going on, and just forces ahead and pretends like everything's okay. And, what keeps coming to mind that I'm still kind of feeling the energy of, I had a new client yesterday, and she's a friend of a friend, happened to be in town, came to see me in person, and such a beautiful, light, young mom of a 3-year-old. She's got a big job, in her 30s, and she kept smiling at me and saying how beautiful her life was and how wonderful everything was. And underneath it, the empath in me was literally screaming, going, she's so unhappy. And she was so afraid because of the conditioning she got as a child, that from her mom, who was divorced when she was very young and had to just forge ahead and didn't have time to take care of herself. She taught this woman how to be a woman. And it was in this very collapsed way of, we don't feel, we don't express our emotions, and we just keep going. And there was a point in that session yesterday where I just placed my hands on her feet and I said, you're not okay. And it's okay that you're not okay. And she burst into tears. And we got past that veneer that she had on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's interesting when people show up for me, I see the veneer, which I know is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And I don't put up with that. I don't know if that sounds really negative,
No,
but
it doesn't. I know what you mean, though.
and I said to her yesterday as she's crying, I said, the most important thing that I do in sessions with people is I see people.
Mhm.
Because these parts of us that are hurting, even if our life looks so beautiful on paper and we're all okay, these parts of us that are hurting, if they're not validated and they're not seen, there's no space for them to heal. And I watched her nervous system shift. I watched her inner child come to the surface. I watched her take a deep breath, like in her whole body for the first time in the whole session. And all I did was sit there and see the part of her that she was denying. And I think that is the essence of this collapsed feminine energy that we're dealing with. And so in this activation that I feel them coming in with, the Divine Feminine Collective is stepping forward. So I channel a lot of different guides. I have the creator beings and the 12th dimensional beings who work with me on my healing work and kind of my structure of my programs and my classes. And then I have the Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine Collective. And within that Divine Feminine Collective is the energy of Mother Earth and Mother Gaia. And she is my guiding light, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it, because we can go very high in frequency and bring in all of these other beings and all these other perspectives, but we actually came here to be in a body and figure out how to be human.
Oh, yeah. The embodiment part. Yep. I got you.
And that's what Mother Earth works with me on. And so I think it's her energy that I'd really like to bring through along with the Divine Feminine Collective and bring in a witnessing for these parts that don't have a voice, these parts that are holding on to emotions that we're maybe not acknowledging, and just bring in this energy of grace and compassion, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Go. We need it. Go ahead.
So if folks are listening, and they're able to do so and it's safe for them to do so, I'm going to invite them to close their eyes. If that's not safe, just find a way in your body to soften. And think of the softening in your body as creating some spaciousness and some time and some place for the parts that we're going to witness, the parts that we've been pushing behind the scenes, the parts that we've been denying, the parts that might have pain and suffering going on that we haven't been able to give enough space to really be able to be seen and loved on and held. That might be a part of you that's pushing forward through something, even though you don't want to do it. It might be a part that is an inner child part that got left behind because mom or dad left you behind when you were little. It might be a part that is grieving something that you've lost or someone that you've lost. It could also be a part that is feeling like an imposter or feeling shame or guilt. I think each of you will have an awareness as we sit in this energy of some part that needs to be loved. And even if you can't mentally put your finger on a part that is hurting and classify it in the way that I just described, can you just tune in enough to your emotional and energetic landscape to be willing to be with whatever is there? One of the energies of this month is this idea of being the witness to whatever is happening. And I know we are practicing that at a collective level when we witness the suffering on this planet, but our capacity to do that will only expand if we're willing to be with the parts that need to be witnessed in our own experience. If we're denying a part of ourselves is hurting, then we're going to deny the pain of those around us, and we're not going to have the capacity to be in compassion and unity consciousness for those around us. And so as you breathe in this moment, just begin to allow your heart to expand and just begin to drop a taproot from your body down into the very core of Mother Earth. Mother Earth and Mother Gaia, as she comes forward, she is the ultimate witness to our human experience. And she is like the loving, kind grandmother that we've always wanted that does not judge that experience. She doesn't judge your anger. She doesn't judge your fear. She doesn't judge your physical pain. Maybe there's something going on with your body that you would like to shift and you're in constriction in that part. She's never judging. She's just witnessing you as a being doing your best to be in a human body. And so as you grow your roots deeply down into the earth, feel into the permanence and the stability and the grounded, unconditionally loving presence of Mother Earth. And perhaps you visualize that as a pulsing light that is just traveling into the body, these waves of light that are coming into the body that represent the unconditional love of Mother Earth. And just take a moment to breathe that in and let that love as an energy go wherever it's needed, whether it's a pain in the body, an emotion that needs to be held, a part of you that you've abandoned or that someone else has hurt. Bring that love in and just let it travel, and try not to be too prescriptive. Just let that love in. Oftentimes, the energy that we hold with Mother Earth represents our connection with our mother in this lifetime. And if we felt like we were a burden to our mom, we often feel that we are a burden to Mother Earth, and she does not look at us that way. We are never a burden to her. We've been conditioned to believe that we are a blight on this earth, that we need to be ashamed that we're taking up too much space here. But really, if we are willing to see the love that Mother Earth has for us and open to that, she will show us how to take care of her. We will co-create with her the unity consciousness, the frequency that we're trying to embody here as a collective as we move forward as a human set of beings here on this planet. And so feel that love coming into the body and just let it embrace whatever's hurting. And let Mama Earth witness that part of you and hold that aspect of self. And then because it's coming in strongly, I also am going to invite you to call in the energy of divine source. In this case, as we bring that energy down from above, we open to this frequency of unity consciousness, this light. This light represents the energy of the divine masculine or our divine father frequency. And I know many of us, myself included, have maybe had a challenging interaction or two with our father energy, with the masculine, but we can pull on a light that is safe, that is unconditionally loving, that supersedes that story of separation. And when we're willing to call in that energy and allow it to combine with that love and that divine feminine frequency of Mother Earth, we then begin to reparent these lost parts of ourselves. We bring these two energies into our heart to allow the lost parts to be held and loved unconditionally and appreciated and validated exactly as they are. I know many who are listening to this are on a healing journey and trying to heal something. But what I want everyone to hear and what the guides want everyone to hear is that you're not broken. That just as you are, you're already worthy. You're already lovable. Even if nothing ever changes in your experience, and this is as far as you get on your healing journey and your enlightenment path, you already did the thing. You're already here. Just choosing to be here in a human body is so freaking hard. Being here in this human experience with other people who are in conflict and struggle in themselves is hard. You've already done the hardest thing that you can do by choosing to be here. Now, choose joy. Choose to enjoy being in this body. Choose to love being in this body. And choose to love all of the parts of you that are doing the absolute best they can with the cards that they've been dealt. And they will continue to heal. They will continue to evolve. But stop judging yourselves. Stop shaming yourselves. Stop seeing yourselves as broken and start to see yourselves as divine beings of light, which is how we, as the collective energies that are supporting this call, supporting this energy of transformation at this time on your planet, see you. You're divinely perfect just as you are. There's nothing else that you have to do to be worthy and to be lovable. And when you create from that frequency, there is so much compassion and love that is available to you and to those around you. And so for just a moment, breathe into all of the love around you, even the love that you've been denying because you felt that you weren't worthy of it because you haven't finished X, Y, or Z on your path. And just steep yourself and all of the parts of you in this energy of love and validation. That's what's really coming in with this transmission. It's the frequency of validation. When we validate something, we accept it and it can transform. Oftentimes we deny parts of ourselves, or we deny our pain, or we deny our shadow. In this eclipse portal that we're in, that's definitely at the forefront. We deny a part of ourselves because we feel that it's unworthy, and we feel that if we were to see it, that it would mean that we're bad or broken. But when we deny it, it can take over, and it can do harmful things to us and those around us. It's the unprocessed shadow on this planet that is creating the conflict. And so don't be that. See all of the parts of you and know that they're all lovable, and that they're all doing the best that they can, and bring them close and integrate them and allow them to be a part of you. And just breathe into that expression of knowing. And maybe if you practice that every day, your capacity for seeing the shadow in other people and loving them anyways will expand. And maybe we might transform this planet quickly, way more quicker than we could do if we just get our policy right, or our politics right, or whatever thing we're arguing about. Good. And just take some deep breaths into that wholeness, into that unity, into that expression of love. I'm sure so many people listening to this are struggling in some way with something. And if we can just be in this place of acceptance and love for ourselves, we can begin to figure out how to heal whatever is going on with us. We always start from validation. We always start from love. And maybe we can send a little bit of that love as a pulse out too. Because I think when we move beyond our experience, we also support ourselves. And so feel that love emanating from your heart in waves, and notice how much easier it is for you to send it out than it is to receive it in. If that's a story for you, just understand that they need to be in reciprocity and equality with one another, this giving and receiving energy. That's what actually equates to divine masculine and divine feminine balance and harmony. And maybe send a little bit of that love to Mother Earth and thank her for being this amazing space holder that she is. And maybe send some of that love to Source, Creator, God, whatever you believe in, your angels, your team. And then bring that love right back home. And as you feel ready, just deepening that breath and coming back into this now moment and opening the eyes. It's always love and validation. I always laugh that the most complex spiritual things that I bring through are actually the most simple things.
Mhm.
But to hold that in its simplicity is incredibly complex. To love ourselves and to validate our shadow and the parts that we don't like seems so simple in theory, right? Like, just love yourself. But man, is that complex, right? Especially when we're triggered and we're traumatized and we're angry and all of those things. It doesn't change the fact that that part of us is lovable. It doesn't negate that worth and that inherent worthiness. If we were to operate from a tenth of how worthy we are, man, would we show up in such a different state of being as individuals? And imagine what we could create as a collective if that was possible.
That's for sure. Yeah. Can I ask a question to them?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, I mean, this seems like you bringing in the divine and the feminine through Mother Earth, and even bringing some of the masculine in to balance that out. I'm noticing that a lot of things, and a lot of healers and people who do work like you do, and in our realm, whatever is the best way to describe it, I don't even know how to say that, but I'm noticing, for lack of better words, and it's interesting because I actually made a meme about this in 2022 or 3 or something. I think it was 22. I made a meme and it said revolution of love.
Mm.
And a lot of people seem to be talking about this revolution of love. And I've had this in my mind that this is not another war, so to speak.
Yeah.
That this revolution is going to come out as love. Is there something that they can share with us about that? Because that's been coming up like really big since then,
Yeah.
for me especially, but a lot now.
Yeah, the there's a lot of them talking at once. They love this question.
Okay.
The Cliff Notes version of what I'm picking up on from them is that we have, and this is going to be very prevalent in October, so this is a little preview of the energy update I'm going to give in October. We believe that we want to be free and have choice and all of the things that, especially in the United States, our country represents. But we have actually gotten comfortable giving our power and our choice away. And in order to actually claim freedom and choice, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and all of the parts of us and begin to love all of the parts of us. We have to take responsibility for our own shadow before we can transform the shadow in the world, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I believe that this revolution of love that you're talking about is this willingness to go inside and do the inner work that we need to do to love those parts of ourselves that we have denied and build from a more holistic and whole place so that we don't need to be in argument with our shadow and our relationships and our politics and all of those things. It's actually us kind of creating this revolution of stillness inside of ourselves and silence inside of ourselves enough where we can hear all of our parts and love all of those parts. And then from that place of connection, we can hear our soul family around us. We can hear our human beings around us. We can hear Mother Earth and what she needs. We can hear the whisperings of our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters who are wanting to guide us. We can get more connected. And we've thought so long that somebody was going to come save us and somebody was going to tell us what we needed to do, and that there's going to be one leader who's going to be able to solve all of our problems. But whatever is happening at the top of the house will always be a reflection of our unprocessed shadow at the collective level. It will always be there to reflect back to us the work that we have to do. And we can either rage against the machine, right?
Okay, I gotta say something about that. Okay, go ahead.
Or the government or whatever, right? Or we can say, what does that reflect in our society and how can I shift that inside of me? And then what the hell can I do about it in my own bubble of influence, in my work, in my zone of genius, even if it's just making art and making beautiful things and taking good care of your children or taking good care of the plot of land that you have. It's like we want this to be some big battle, that it needs to be this big external, somebody's got to solve all these problems, but it starts with the little moments every single day of us being in that revolution of love for ourselves and for whatever we have in our sphere of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very quick for us to be shamed that we're not doing enough if we're just doing meditation and taking care of ourselves and taking care of our family, and we're choosing not to go into battle. And people want us to take sides. They want us to be in battle with one another. But why are we playing into that? Why are we choosing to be in battle? Why are we choosing to take a side when in reality that polarity is there because it's a product of what we've been steeped in, and that's exactly what they want us to be in.
Yeah, and the polarity's in here. That's why it's up there. Yeah.
Right. And so when we're balancing our masculine and feminine, guess what? We're creating the world that we want right inside of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if we can't create it here, we sure as shit are not going to be able to create it out in the world around us.
That's truth. Yeah. So I'm curious then in that information. Thank you for that. So we're both empaths, and my audience is empaths, highly sensitive, seekers, so we're all in the right place. I've had this gnawing understanding feeling, whatever it is, that as empaths, like we only make up about 15 to 20% of the population. But
right.
What?
Right now.
Right. Well, yes, but that's
because
been understanding
for empathy.
Yes, exactly. And so what's happening is that the more empaths and highly sensitive heal, the bigger, even more profoundly, that the energy gets to heal the planet. So my question is, if we, like, the work I do is to guide others through healing trauma by grieving or through grief work. And so if we're able to get to more empaths to do this healing work, because you just basically said that, is that not going to, isn't that our, like, why else would we be here type of thing as empaths?
Yeah, absolutely. I have heard from the guides as long as I've been channeling them that you got to feel it to heal it, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the superpower of the feminine in all of us lies in alchemizing our emotions, feeling our emotions, and alchemizing them into courage, right? On the emotional scale, we go from rage to courage. It's just a little flip of the switch. And as we are willing to sit with the hard things and be in our empathy and feel what we're feeling without it being this victim story of, oh my God, look, I can't be in the world because I'm this empathic being and I'm so sensitive. That's BS. It's part of the journey when you wake up to know that you're an empath. I went through it too, but at some point you got to claim it and say, I have this for a reason. I'm here because I can walk into a room and I can feel the person who's sad, and I will not ignore them when everybody else is. Or at
Right.
least
Yep.
if I don't have the capacity to hold space for them in that moment, I can at least acknowledge that they're hurting and see them and make eye contact and send love to them, even if I don't have capacity to hear their story in that moment because I'm taking care of something with me. We can find a way to be in our empathy superpower, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's not a curse.
when we turn on to that knowledge that
Yeah.
this is a superpower, the people who are also wanting to be in their empathy but feel like having feelings is terrible, i.e. a lot of the men on our planet.
Well, that's what we've been programmed to believe.
Yeah, that's what they've been programmed, that that's a vulnerability, that's a weakness.
And it's not just men, because
No,
there's
it's women too.
we do it
Yep.
too.
And I believe as empaths, especially as female empaths, when we own this capability that we have to feel and to process those feelings and make sense of those feelings and alchemize them, not only are we teaching other empaths or other potentially empathic people who want to wake up to that, but we're also showing the masculine how to be in their feminine so that they can take care of their feminine so they can take care of us in female bodies.
That's
And
huge.
so
Oh, you just brought up another question.
for so many people,
Oh
for so many reasons, because when we claim this as a superpower,
yeah.
it transforms so many things.
Absolutely, 1000%. I couldn't agree more, because that's what I'm feeling right now, and it's I before I ask you this last question related to your guides sharing, I watched a video last night that basically was talking about how women who live alone, and I was going through my trying to figure out this whole thing with my feminine and why I'm not bringing the feminine. And I watched this video, and it was like right on point as to why there are so many women out there who are living alone and not and nothing against being married or being in a relationship or any of that. But the part for me about living alone, because I'm like, I still am programmed to, I have to be with a man to be happy. It all related back to, we're doing it because we are learning and living what you are talking about in creating that space within, without having to put our focus and get distracted with anything outside of us. So living alone is like opening this whole world up of who I am as a female, as a woman, and why I'm here. I mean, it was like this huge aha moment. And then it was also talking about how, it's not necessarily about being alone, but when you get to this certain point, you stop attracting relationships that are codependent, where you give yourself away, all of these different things. And I'm like, oh my God. And then when you reach this certain understanding, then you will attract a partner into your life who is of the same understanding. So you both will relate together and do the spiritual work, or not even do the work. It's like you're being the work. Yeah. You're not doing right. And that's thank you. I was so excited to say that.
And I would love to interject that, my husband and I have been together for I don't know, something like 20 some years. Our
Wow.
13th wedding anniversary is coming up in October. And we're taking this trip to Glastonbury, which is the heart chakra of the world, where the feminine and the masculine come together. And it's such an interesting timing because the way stuff happens in my life, for anybody, there's never any coincidences, but man, like the way things articulate in my life is so interesting. After my dad passed, and I had been angry with him for a long time because of the choices that he made towards my mother and the way he treated the feminine and the way he treated me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to have a boundary with him. But after he passed, it was like all of that energy that I was using to try to keep myself safe in relationship with him got freed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized how much that was impacting me and how much it wasn't allowing me to do the work that I needed to do with my husband for us to be better partners with one another.
Wow. Yeah.
And I got shown a vision like 8 years ago, maybe more, that my husband and I would be doing couples work in the future. We're planning our first couples retreat for next year because I finally feel like we're in a place where we have medicine to give because we're actually doing this thing that we've been trying to get to for a long
Yeah.
time.
You're living it. You're starting to live it.
Get there
Yeah.
until I made the choice to get there internally by forgiving my father. And I'm still working through that forgiveness because it's multi-layered and multi-lifetime. But when I stopped needing to be in battle with the masculine because I was trying to do that to survive in that scenario, when that ended and he gave me the gift of leaving, which is how I now look at it, I freed up that energy and I said, wow, I got some really big stuff I need to deal with the masculine to heal this inside of myself and to heal my anger and my frustration and my blame and my shame. And I still want to hold them accountable and I still want to help them to do their inner work. And I still know that it needs to get better and that it needs to be better at a planetary level. And I can hold both of those things at the same time. I can be angry and
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, and I can see that they're a product of their environment.
Yes.
And that was the same thing for me too. I could see that the masculine parts, to come all the way back to where we began this conversation, that the masculine parts that turned on in that corporate environment that shut down my feminine, I was just doing that to survive. And I could forgive my masculine for harming my internal feminine, and they could come together and I can find more unity, which then allows me to be able to witness and receive that in my divine partnership. And, he didn't just change overnight. He's the same man he was,
Mm-hmm.
but I created an environment where he can step into his masculine and I can step into my feminine because I did that inner work. And whether women do that or men do that on their own outside of relationship, or like for my husband and I, we do it and we evolve as a couple, because there were many times I didn't know if we were going to make it. We're all doing this work. This is a collective story that we're all playing out. Even the people who are trying to put women back into the 1950s, do you know why they're doing that? Because there's a part of them that feels that there's this imbalance, and the only way they know is to go backwards because nobody's ever taught them how to go forwards.
They lose control. They're out of control already, and the only way that they can keep control.
It's a fear story, but even beyond that, through the unified lens, as a compassionate being who sees that and says, wow, this person doesn't know any other way because nobody's ever helped them to heal, they're going to go backwards because it feels familiar and comfortable to go back to this thing that we perceive as being perfect, which was also broken. And so until we as individuals decide how to move forward and claim our balance and do this work, we're not going to show them any other way, right? We can keep battling with them and say you're wrong and we're right, but let's just live it. Let's experience it. Let's live it. Let's show
Yeah.
people what it looks like. And it's going to be so damn attractive when you're joyful and connected and balanced and living in a sacred partnership and it feels really good. Everybody's like, what are you doing? I want to do that too. Right.
Yeah.
Not by going to battle with what is and what's showing up in the shadow.
Right.
It's keep showing up so we can see it and we get to decide to keep choosing it or not.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because as the for my own perspective, for my own work, after I watched that and was validated with that video, it's like by me just doing my healing work over the years, over the many years that I've been doing this, I have also noticed that it's not something that you have to force. Once you heal your body, Once you embody your body, once you heal your nervous system, once you breathe, once you do all these things, all of that stuff happens on its own. It's not something that you have to force or make happen. It just happens. And then you start to see things differently. You start to attract different people into your life. Like I have, because of my wounded masculine and all this stuff, I've always had more men around me in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm also noticing that I'm starting to be able to attract balanced women into my life now. And I think that's really cool. But I'm also starting to see there's a lot of men out there, all different age ranges, that are also doing their healing work. And the more of them that do their healing work and then start connecting with their feminine and understanding that piece, or understanding who their masculine is, because some of them are overly feminine, and not in a bad way, not in any kind of way. There are some men who have been so traumatized that their feminine kind of sits on the surface because they don't know how to stand up for themselves. And that's an interesting concept too. So it's a lot of different things that are going on in there. But the point is to go inside, is to heal within. And when you heal that, we attract each other like this. We don't attract people who are down here anymore because they don't understand this. They don't feel the same thing. But the further the vibration goes up, the closer the attraction is at a higher vibration. And so that's how I see that working through my own experience. And I think that's really powerful. I want to ask one more question to your guides that I feel is an important thing that's happening right now to get through this, is by starting to build community. And the best way to even do that is to start small with 3 people. Just starting to build this community. And the more that people come together and they start to see how similar we are, the more it's going to build out to this collective coming together connection kind of thing. You're smiling. So
I'm laughing because the students really like to answer this question.
let her rip. Star beings, that's even better.
So we've got our helpers that are I channel a lot of star brothers and sisters in my 12th dimensional collective, and they operate in lots of different frequencies, and they bring in a higher / different perspective than where we are, because they've moved through this transition of having a body and being in duality and moving up the dimensional plane. Right now, how we're doing it on Earth is different than how it's ever been done in the universe. Okay,
that's what I'm getting. Yeah,
you know that for sure.
Yeah,
but they do want us to understand that when we choose to take care of ourselves as individuals and do that work, and then create connection while we're in that process in community, what we're saying yes to is being a part of the global universal community. We will not have open contact where they actually show up in their ships and we know about it and it's not covered up or negated by our systems, right? We will not have that until we get to a place where we can at least have enough of us who are taking care of each other. And the interesting thing that's happening, and I see this in my own life, I have a community that I have within Zen Within. We have several thousand people in our community and people joining calls and all that stuff. We have retreats that we build. All I do in my work is build little communities, it seems like. It's just a constant. And I created my own little group of women a few years ago that are doing healing work. And I said, hey, I'm lonely. I think y'all are lonely. Let's get together. And what I've witnessed is that as empaths and as sensitives, we're almost afraid of community. We're afraid of the consequences that come if we open our heart to someone and they don't understand us. But if we don't practice this, I can certainly tell you that nobody else is going to figure it out, right? Like, we have the empathy and we have the emotional intelligence and the awareness to be able to open our hearts enough to hear a different opinion and to not hate the person and completely cut them off. We have the capacity for that in our empathy because we can feel what's happening inside of that person, and that's a superpower. we have to leverage that to create communities amongst ourselves. And it doesn't have to all just be everybody exactly thinks the same way. We can hold space for our differences.
Mhm.
As we practice that, what the Star Brothers and Sisters say is that just imagine when they show up and they make open contact, one of the first things that's going to happen is this idea of unity consciousness and that we're all one earth collective is going to be so loud, because it's not going to be the Norwegians and the people from the UK and the Africans and the Americans and the Indians and the blacks and the whites and all the categories. It's going to be earthlings,
Mhm.
non-earthlings.
Mhm.
Our perspective will instantly expand in that moment when they show up, because we'll realize, oh my God, we're all the same.
Mhm.
And these star beings that are coming in, some of them don't even look human and they have different abilities and they're from different planetary systems. They're quote unquote different. And we'll have to work through that, which will be a whole other thing, right? Think Star Trek and galactic councils and federations and all those things that we have to work through in the universal sense. But it will create commonality in an instant.
Mhm.
But until we are willing to do that work ourselves with one another, they're not going to show up, because we're gonna other them just like we're othering each
Mhm.
other.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense. But they're watching.
They are, and
You're
they help.
definitely watching.
And those of us that are channeling them and bringing these messages through are helping, but they will not interfere. They will not interrupt. They will not come in and save. I don't care how many people channel that. That's not what it's about, right? This is about an expansion of, we're
Mhm.
no longer just this earth experience, which is really just a whole bunch of star beings who came here together in one earth experience. And that's what we're really working out on one planet, right? Imagine what they're working out in a universal system where there's all these different star brothers and sisters. We're working out on one planet. No wonder it's so hard to be here. No wonder we have wars. No wonder we have so much conflict.
Yeah.
Once we understand that, though, everything is going to change. And then we'll start asking questions like, well, how did you get here? Well, we have free energy and we don't rely on petrol, and everything's going to change.
It's funny you said that, because I watched a video the other day. It was one of those short videos, and there was this woman talking to a Native American, and she was like getting all upset about something, and she said, "I don't understand why we're paying for something that's a resource that's free, that was given free. Why are we paying for these things like water and all this stuff?" So that's cool that you say that, because it's leading to something that's
Yeah. And think about all of the systems that are embedded in that are going to
yeah,
change instantly.
yeah.
But all of that's going to happen at some point. I don't know when. Some people are saying 2027. I haven't gotten that download yet. It's going to happen at some point. It's the inevitable path that we're on. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Already.
flip in 2027. We just don't know what it is. And I've been getting a download where the work that I do, um, where that has to do with the movement that I'm creating in my life.
Yeah.
But between the end of the year, for me, the end of the year, and then 2026 and 2027, it builds into being that space to hold for people, so we can create that community and that shift. That's what I keep getting, is like a kind of download, is the creation of.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I'm part of, something like that.
I
I don't,
agree, because I think I know a lot of people, myself included, who are in the process of getting updated, to use a military term, marching orders right now from the
yeah,
universe, right?
yeah,
And we're all feeling like we need to move, or there's another place we need to be, but we don't quite know yet because it's not quite time yet. Start choosing the community wherever we are and start building that wherever we are. Basically, what we're saying yes to is that future that I just talked about. Like,
yeah.
when we're willing to do this work and see that there's more commonality than there's difference, and come from that revolution of love that you talked about, we're
Mhm.
saying yes to this timeline happening faster. And it doesn't take all of us. The people who are the loudest are the minority on this planet. They just happen to get the most airtime. And we've been led to believe that that's not true because of the way things are covered, right? But the reality is there's a lot more of us that are alike than we think, but we're not talking to each other. We're not brave
That's
enough use our voice. We're not brave enough to say
Yeah.
what we are working on. We're in the spiritual closet, whatever you want to call it. We have to come out and we have to be willing to be brave and speak truth. We feel, find each other. And then we have to actually show up because people say they want community, they say they want freedom, they say they want choice, but they don't actually take the action and they don't
Well,
actually show up.
but that's where fear comes in. And that's like a whole nother conversation because we're afraid of whatever. We're going to get caught or we're going to, just basic fears like, oh my gosh, if I get in front of people and start talking, I'm going to die or,
Right. What are they going to
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So but fear, obviously, how does, it's not, what is it? It's not the opposite of love. Marianne Williamson talked about the comparison between fear and love. But in order to get on the other side of fear, love is the answer to that,
And is the absence of love or the
yes.
understanding that we don't have access to love in that moment, or that something could happen that could take us away from love.
Right. And that's what the challenges of healing is, because we're trying to come back to love within self and create that in these communities. And so the thing that popped into my head is that maybe that's what 2026 and 2027 is this goal, this opportunity to start building these communities in a more powerful way and bring people together, because what's happening out there, old school, old programming, all these different things, is not working. And it's not even working for the people who are doing it. That's the crazy thing to me. And so when I have nothing negative to say about any of that stuff, because it just drags me down when I do that. But I mean, that's one of my gifts and challenges that I have at the same time, is being able to see things that a lot of people aren't able to see, is like 1 + 1 is 2. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And it's not like a forward see. It's like, whoa, I don't even know what that's called.
Yeah, the clairvoyance and the claircognizance and the understanding of being able to see how all the patterns are coming together.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
there's a lot of people who
That's
are
what,
neurodivergent and empathic who can see in patterns. I see in patterns, and it's a
okay.
superpower. And it makes us feel crazy sometimes because we see things that other people either can't, or if they did see it. And this is one place that I ask people to drop into compassion, is some people can see it, but if they really admitted it, then they would have to look at all of the other things that would change about
Yep.
how they see the
Yep.
world. And
Yeah.
it would literally break down their understanding of their world. And it would create such a crisis for them that would be so destabilizing that they will avoid that at all costs. And if
That's
we
what's
don't have,
happening. It's
if we
happening.
don't have compassion for people like that, and understand that they literally can't do it because it would break their whole world apart, and anybody who's been through a huge life change knows how hard that is. We have to have compassion that people are struggling with that, and eventually they're not going to be able to ignore it, and we have to just create the space of safety and love and compassion that whenever that happens, we're here.
Yes. And that's exactly what I was saying about the next couple of years, because that's where we're creating that space for people to come to when they do start getting into that, I don't know what to do type of
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah.
shakes your worldview when you start to wake up and realize that you're creating your own reality and it's not anybody else's fault. Talk about having a splash of cold water.
Yeah, the emoji with the head blowing off, and I talk about this a lot. That's my cognitive dissonance emoji. That
Yeah.
happens with me a lot, and
Yeah.
and the more it happens, though, the more settled I get. So that's the cool part. Wow, that was huge. Thank you to your guides for answering my questions, because I've been wanting to know that stuff for a while, just to validate, because I keep getting that information, but I appreciate the fact that they were able to validate that, because now I can believe my own intuition.
It's all about
Yeah.
trusting ourselves, right?
Yep. Yep. Which is not easy, but it's definitely worth it when you finally figure out what that looks like. So before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask all of my guests.
Okay.
If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
Don't make it work. Meaning the work ethic part of you that's probably
Oh, that.
on some level driving you to take this on can easily take over, and it can be another box that you're trying to check. And where's the fun in that?
Mm.
So much of what we're trying to heal from was created because we weren't in a space of loving, joyful vibration. And so don't make your healing journey like that too.
Mhm.
Find a way to find the parts of it that are joyful, even in the hard moments. Learn to hold both at the same time.
Grace, give yourself grace,
Hmm.
be gentle. Yeah, all
Hmm.
that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And make it joyful, make it fun, make
Yeah.
it, you know, enjoy the process of becoming the next version of yourself. Like, otherwise, what the heck are we doing here, and
Right.
why?
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be so hard. And this is speaking from someone who has made it hard most of her life.
I get it. I get it. My addiction became healing. So
Yeah,
I
it's a
totally understand that. Yeah. And
it's
it's funny because now, like, I have a connection with my ancestors now from doing work with them and healing some of that stuff.
yeah.
And I have them sitting on my altar. And there are some days when some stuff comes up and I'm like, just and I'll walk and I go to the back room and I walk right past the altar and I look at them and I'm like, all right, come
I need to know.
here, help me out, do something. I don't know what's happening. You need to help me, and that to me is better than being in a massive kicking and screaming and crying fit.
Yeah.
Then just go and say, hey, I mean, it's a totally different space that I'm in now. That's good. I like that. Oh, well, thank you for that. The next question I have is, how do you define awakening?
Oh,
This might be an entire conversation on its own.
I love that question. I have a whole course called the Awakening Program, and I called it that because it's like my level 1 course of like, how do you just like deal with being an empath and running energy and like just starting to take ownership of your energy field. And I think that's kind of what the awakening process is. It's like deciding that you're going to take ownership and be a proactive creator in the world
Mm,
versus a reactive creator.
I
Right.
like
And
that.
I think anybody can do that at any stage in their spiritual journey. Awakening can happen to that new level of creatorship in each day and each moment. And so we never stop awakening, right? There's always a new truth coming in, there's always a new awareness coming in. And can we allow that seeking path that we're on to be one of gentle unfoldment
Mm,
rather than, again, this working mission that we're on? Can we enjoy it? And can we also validate the things that we have already awoken to as well and validate where we are? And then also be like, yeah, and I still don't know X, Y, and Z. And that's okay because as far as I get into this journey, I'm going to keep uncovering things.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when you get started, though, we'll go back to that first question that I asked her. It's like, you're not going to know this stuff right
No,
away. You've got to take the steps and walk through each little, jump into each puddle,
keep
get
following the
get
breadcrumbs.
dirty, and then when you're done, get out and next. That's pretty much. And it's like this journey is so. When something worked for me, I put it in my toolbox. When something didn't work for me, I was like, okay, that didn't work out well. So what's next? And I just kept looking. It was like a research project on myself. It was really, yeah. So that's how I see it, that awakening piece. Like you're saying it, that makes perfect sense. What do you believe soul divinity is?
Mm. Well, the words that come to mind when you ask that question are this understanding of inherent worthiness, like the original spark that we came in with that I see
Mm,
inside of everybody's hearts when I connect with them. And I see that no matter what happens in their life as a soul over multiple incarnations, that spark never goes away because we are a drop of source consciousness
yeah.
embodied. And we're constantly uncovering more of the truth of that in each moment, that we are just source and that everything is source.
That's perfect. The byline of my podcast,
Mm.
uncover the truth of who you are. That fits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we're always doing,
that's what
right?
we're always
It
doing.
always comes back to that.
That's
All the
right.
layers that we peel of the conditioning and programming that we've been given are really just to help us remember who we really are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. How can people get in touch with you?
The easiest way is to look for Zen Within Academy on all of the places. So YouTube, I do an energy update every month. We have a healing circle that lots of people join that is based on the energies in that update to kind of be like in community working through the lessons that we're working through as a collective. I do one-on-one sessions. You can go to zenwithinacademy.com, Instagram, Within Academy, Facebook, Zen Within Academy. Come join us on a retreat, Sacred Journey, come to a workshop, come to a healing
Yeah.
circle.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how you can find us. I'm sure people, I don't even know how people find us sometimes, but they find their way if they're meant to. So
Well, I found you. I found you at a one of your
static dance event.
that's how people find you. It's just meant to be that way. Now the links that of the places that you're referring to, all that's going to be in the description. I say that every time just to remind everybody that it's available. It'll be available there. But I don't know if you sent me the link to the awakening course, but if not, I may need, I want to put that in there too, because those people who are just starting, that might be a good space for them, especially because it's directed towards empaths. And I think that might help. I don't personally know, but my gut's telling me it'll be a good place to start. I'm just saying.
Great place. Yeah, my husband just helped me redo my course page, and there's a little quiz on there that helps people decide which of all the offerings that I've taught might be a good fit for them. And so that's really helpful because we have a big repository of teachings that I have on my website. So
okay. Okay, perfect. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I just really want people to remember this love piece and not the concept of it of like the frilly romantic love, but this like ever-present permeable energy of love, and remembering that they can tap into that in those moments where they feel like they're going through something all by themselves, and it looks like surrendering into asking for help. We all have guides, we all have helpers. Just because I'm a channel doesn't mean I'm doing it any different than anybody else. This is just the way it looks for me in my life. We all have access to this consciousness around us, this consciousness of love. But if we don't ask for help, we can't receive it. So just remember you're never alone, and please remember to ask for help.
Yes, please. That was one of my life lessons. So, and as empaths, we're always trying to help everybody else. So it's your turn.
Yeah, remember to receive.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. All right, Katie. Thank you for opening your heart and sharing such a vulnerable journey with us today. You've shown us how silence, illness, and even heartbreak of estrangement and suicide can become doorways into a deeper wholeness. Your work reminds us that healing is not only physical, it is energetic, spiritual, and profoundly human. I call this giving grief a voice, because when we dare to face the silence and the wound, they can transform into wisdom and truth. So for those in the audience, may this conversation remind you your pain matters, your healing matters, and your voice matters. Thank you for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.